In the heart of Lagos, as evening came, the streets were alive with noise. Shopkeepers shouted about their goods, and from the food stalls, the sound of metal pots clashing rang out, mixing with the rich scent and spicy stew. Amaka leaned against the wooden door of her one-room apartment. Her heart was heavy. It was now several weeks since her husband, Chukwudi, started acting strangely. At first, she had brushed it off, thinking it was stress from work. But now, his late nights and distancing were becoming too glaring to ignore. Amaka, you need to calm down. Ifunanya, her childhood friend, advised her one evening. Sometimes men are like that. Maybe he is going through something. Amaka sighed. Her eyes was welling up. It is not just that too. Lately, Madam Esther has been too friendly with him. You need to see how she invited him into her sitting room last week. She acted like I wasn't even there. Madam Esther was their landlady. She was a wealthy widow. In her late 40s, she was known for her sharp tongue and domineering presence. Living in her compound came with its own share of challenges, but Amaka had never imagined that her marital problems come from her. It was not long when the worst happened. Chukwudi packed his belongings and moved in with Madam Esther. The gossips spread like wildfire. Some of their neighbors whispered in pity, while the others mocked Amaka openly. She felt as though the ground should open and swallow her up. The shame was unbearable. Amaka's life changed overnight into despair. She stopped going to the market regularly and avoided people. Her mother, Mama Nkechi, came to stay with her for a while. Mom, she said softly one night, you cannot let this destroy you. Men come and go, but you must stand on your own. Remember who you are. But it wasn't until Amaka ran into Elder Eze at the local church that she began to see things differently. The old man was wise and had a way of speaking that made you to listen. Amaka, he said after the service, the strong do not fight every battle. Sometimes you win by being patient and planning well. Let God handle your enemies, but don't sit idle. Rise up. Those words stayed with her that night. Amaka picked herself up and made a decision. She would not let Chukwudi's betrayal to define her. She began by taking small steps. Ifunanya introduced her to a tailoring apprenticeship and Amaka eagerly joined. Sewing became her therapy, a way to channel her pain into something productive. Meanwhile, life in Madam Esther's flat was not as rosy as Chukwudi had imagined. At first, the relationship had been exciting. Madam Esther lavished him with attention, bought new clothes for him, and together they visited fancy places. But soon, her true nature began to show. She was controlling, demanding, and quick to anger. One evening, she turned to Chukwudi with a sharp voice. Have you paid for the generator fuel yet? Chukwudi hesitated, rubbing his hands together. He said, I was planning to do it tomorrow. Tomorrow? She begged, in my house. We do things when I say so. Or would you rather go back to that Amaka of yours? Chukwudi swallowed his pride and obeyed. He missed the peace he once had with Amaka. Even if they had struggled financially, their neighbors' whispers didn't help either. Every time he passed, the neighbors stopped talking for a moment, then started whispering again. He knew they were talking about him. It was like heavy chains wrapped around him, holding him in place. Back in her one-room apartment, Amaka's transformation was beginning to gain momentum. Her tailoring skills improved quickly, and she began taking small orders from neighbors. Her cheerful disposition returned, and she became a source of inspiration to others in the compound. One evening, Ifunanya visited with a big smile. "Amaka, guess what? I have good news for you," she said, beaming with a smile. "There is a business fair happening next month. I want you to go and showcase your work to the world." "Me? Go to a whole business fair?" Amaka was hesitant. "Yes, you. You are talented and people need to see that. Don't let anyone stop you." Ifunanya said. Her voice was firm. Amaka agreed. So she began working tirelessly. She practiced different designs, sewing dresses, shirts, and headscarves. Her confidence grew with each completed piece. When the day for the fair arrived, her stand was one of the busiest. People admired her work and placed orders. A wealthy client even offered to sponsor her for advanced training in Abuja. As Amaka's star was beginning to rise, Madam Esther's empire was beginning to crumble. Amaka had quietly gathered evidence of Madam Esther's illegal activities, including her unfair treatment of tenants. She shared this information with Elder Eze, who secretly involved the local authorities. One afternoon, a notice of investigation was served to Madam Esther. Her heart pounded like a talking drum, and her breath came in short, sharp bursts. Anyone who saw her knew that trouble was coming. "Who is trying to ruin me?" she screamed. But deep down, she knew Amaka had something to do with it. In the midst of her troubles, Madam Esther's relationship with Chukwudi worsened. Chukwudi was no longer the obedient man she had lured into her flat. The arguments became frequent and sharp, and the neighbors often heard their voices raised late into the night. Gradually, Chukwudi began to regret his decisions. He watched from a distance as Amaka flourished. Her business was thriving and her confidence unshaken. One day, he approached her at the market. "Amaka," he called, "can we talk?" he asked, feeling nervous. Amaka turned to him. Her expression was calm but firm. "What is there to talk about, Chukwudi? You've made your choice." "I was wrong," he admitted. "I let greed blind me. Esther is not what I thought she was." Amaka smiled faintly, then said, "Chukwudi, life is about choices. You choose her, and I choose to rebuild my life. Let's leave it at that." Chukwudi's shoulder dropped. He realized that Amaka had grown beyond him, and he was not sure if he could ever repair the damage that he had caused. Madam Esther, who was now under pressure from both the authorities and her tenants, began to lose control of her once commanding presence. The tenants, banded together, were inspired by Amaka's courage and demanded better living conditions. Elder Eze acted as a mediator, ensuring their grievances were heard. Despite the chaos around her, Amaka remained focused. She knew there was more to achieve, more heights to reach. Her journey was far from over, and she was determined to see where it would lead. One evening, as Amaka was sewing a colorful Ankara dress, her mother, Mama Nkechi, sat beside her, peeling egusi seeds. Her mother began, "A goat that escaped from a lion's den should not go back just because the grass looks greener there." Amaka chuckled. "Mama, I know. Chukwudi have made his choice, and my eyes are fixed ahead." Mama Nkechi nodded gently. "Good. Remember, if a tree falls in the forest, the birds will find another tree to perch on. You are stronger than you think, Amaka. As they spoke, a loud commotion erupted outside. The tenants had gathered. They were arguing fiercely with Madam Esther. Amaka's window gave her a view of the chaos outside. Madam Esther, who used to stand tall and proud, have now lost her confidence. She was like an old clothes, faded and worn. Elder Eze appeared. His voice was booming with authority. Let us settle this matter with sense. A pot that boils too fast will crack. His parable silenced the crowd momentarily, and they listened as he mediated. Meanwhile, Amaka received a call from one of her wealthy clients, Mrs. Danjuma. Amaka, she said, my daughter is wedding in Abuja, and I want you to make all her wedding dresses. When you come to Abuja, I will introduce you to some of my friends who are interested in your designs. Amaka's heart leaped with joy. This was the breakthrough she had prayed for. Thank you, Ma, she said, and began preparing for the trip. Chukwudi, hearing of Amaka's growing success, became even more restless. He approached Elder Eze one evening. Baba, I have wronged Amaka. What should I do to win her back? Elder Eze stroked his beard thoughtfully. My son, when the drum beats for the leopard, it is too late for the goats to dance. Amaka is not the same woman you left. If you truly wish to reconcile, you must come with honesty and humility. Chukwudi nodded, but felt a knot in his chest. He realized the path ahead would not be easy. Amaka's preparations for Abuja were in full swing when Ifunanya brought her more good news. Amaka, guess what? Your story is spreading. The community's women group wants to honor you at their next meeting. They see you as a role model. Amaka felt a surge of gratitude. I never thought my pain would turn into something like this. God is so faithful. Ifunanya smiled. When the rain beats you, it is only teaching you to value shelter. You deserve every blessing that is coming your way. The story was far from over. Amaka's journey was just beginning. With opportunities unfolding and challenges yet to face, she knew that with resilience and faith, she would overcome whatever lay ahead of her. Abuja was like a giant drum, beating fast with people moving, cars honking, and voices filling the air. The city's vibrancy overwhelmed Amaka at first, but she quickly adapted. Her tailoring skills speaking louder than words. At the wedding venue, her dresses stood out, earning her the admiration of elite guests. One woman in particular approached her with a smile. Young lady, your designs are exquisite, she said. Have you considered expanding your brand? She asked. Amaka hesitated, then answered, I'm just starting, Ma. I'm still learning. The woman laughed softly. Modesty suits you, but don't hide your light under a basket. Come and see me in my office. I can help you connect with bigger opportunities, she said. Back in Lagos, Madam Esther's woes continued to worsen. The tenants demanded accountability, and she faced legal troubles. Chukwudi, now without a place to stay, found himself at Elder Eze's doorstep once more. Baba, I have nothing left. Madam Esther's promises were empty. What do I do now? He asked, his voice heavy with regret. The Eze shook his head. A bird that perches on a weak branch must be prepared for a fall. Chukwudi, you must rebuild yourself before seeking forgiveness from anyone else. Chukwudi knew that the elder was right. For the first time in years, he resolved to take responsibility for his life, even if it means starting from the scratch. After some time, Amaka returned to Lagos with new contracts and a broader vision. Her business grew and her confidence soared. The community women's group honored her, and she used the platform to inspire many others. When life presses you, she said, it is like pounding yam. The more it is pounded, the smoother and better it becomes. Don't give up when the pounding is hard. The applause was thunderous, and Amaka knew her story was no longer just hers. It was a testimony for others to draw strength from. Amaka's journey from heartbreak to triumph is a testament to the power of resilience, determination, and self-discovery. Despite facing betrayal and shame, she transformed her pain into success, proving that one's worth is not determined by the actions of others, but by focusing on her personal growth. She rebuilt her life and became an inspiration to those around her. If you are facing similar challenges in your own life, take a cue from Amaka's story. Turn your pain into power. Focus on new opportunities and never stop believing in yourself. You can start today by investing in your personal growth and let your story inspire others to rise above their struggles. The end. Moral lesson. The morality of this story is that strength lies in overcoming adversity and focusing on self-growth. Life's challenges are an opportunity for growth, and the key to success is not in dwelling on the past, but in embracing the future with resilience, faith, and determination. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the like button, comment, share, and subscribe to African Tales by Chetty's channel for more inspiring African folktales story that will uplift and motivate you. Until I bring another story your way, bye and stay safe.